Hi dear brothers and sisters in Christ, let us dive into the Word. Dear friends, today's Gospel is taken from John chapter 13, verse 21 to 33 and 36 to 38. So in this Gospel, we see Jesus at the Last Supper, and he reveals that one of his own will betray him. We know that Judas received the bread and then he leaves. And then we see Peter, so full of love and conviction for Jesus, promises him everything, yet Jesus foretells his denial. But dear friends, I want to draw your attention to this line here in verse 30. It says, "So Judas took the morsel," which is a piece of bread, "and left at once. And it was night." And so dear friends, why did John say it was night? So we could say here that it was more than just a time of day. It was a spiritual state. Because what can we see at night? What can we see in the dark? Nothing. But we see Judas, he steps from the light of Jesus' presence into the night of isolation and sin. And so that morsel becomes his final chance. Yet Judas chose darkness, where we see Satan fully enters him in verse 27, describing that state of moral blindness. So, we see that Judas received the bread, yet he chose convenience over faithfulness. So maybe a simple way to help us understand this, even for ourselves, every week at Mass, how many of us receive the morsel, the Eucharist, and then we leave the church and immediately do the opposite of what Jesus calls us to do? We receive the Eucharist, and then we go out and we fight with someone in the church, or even the parking lot itself. Or we receive the Eucharist, and then we get into the car, and then we quarrel with our family members. Or we receive the Eucharist, and then we go out and we start gossiping, slandering about someone, or we lie, or betray a friend. How many times have we done that? And John says this in John chapter 3 verse 19. It simply says that, "And in this is the judgment, that the light has come into the world. But people love the darkness rather than the light, because their works were evil." So dear friends, now let me just bring some attention back to Peter as well. We know Peter loved Jesus. He meant what he said when he said, "I will lay down my life for you." But within hours, we know that Peter denies Jesus 3 times. So what do we see here, dear brothers and sisters? We see 2 responses. But the difference, as we know, is that only one comes back to the light. So dear brothers and sisters in Christ, today, as we are in Holy Week, I invite you to ponder this with me. When have we chosen night in small ways? How have we received the morsel, the Eucharist, yet choose convenience over being faithful to Jesus? Because Jesus offers us the Eucharist, a piece of salvation, every single week, knowing that we might betray him. Because John 13 verse 1 reminds us that Jesus loved them, which is the disciples, to the end. Every single one of them. And that includes us, you and I too. So dear brothers and sisters, are we like Peter, who, yes, he denied Jesus, yet came back to the light? Or are we like Judas, who will step into the night and never look back? And we know how that ended for him. Have we responded to the call of this Lenten season to return to Jesus with our whole heart? So dear friends, this Easter, we will be receiving the light of Christ, the Lumen Christi. Let us remember that this light, it is not just a light for that moment, but for every step of our lives. It calls us to leave the darkness behind, reject the works of the devil, and to walk faithfully with Jesus, and to share his love with others. Have a blessed Holy Week and a happy Easter to all of you, dear brothers and sisters. God bless.